Hello everyone! During the off-season of drifting, we went to some place to show you something more interesting or different interesting stuff, and we went to a place called Weiss Fab. So we are now here with Weiss Fab to show you how things are made here, what they are doing here, and we will speak here with Tarmo. Hello Tarmo.
Hello, how are you doing? Nice to have you here.
Great to be here. The weather is not so great now.
No, it's a typical December, to be honest. I mean, it's be nice and snowy. But
I was expecting the snow and it's just raining.
yeah, I'm sorry for that. Quite some distance, and yeah, all we can offer is a weather like in Ireland, maybe even colder.
But we are not here for weather. What we are here for?
I would like to show you around what we have here at Weiss Fab and what we're doing here. But yeah, a nice factory tour, I guess.
Let's go for it. Let's go to some stuff which you can show us as you're showing it on some expos. I really like those cuts of the cars. There are a lot of details on those.
Yeah, we have done a few mock-ups or things for trade shows.
So which one you would like to start with?
Let's start with the Beamer. That's more about drifting, so yeah, why not? So here we have E92 front end with Weiss Fab angle kit. It's a pro kit, the one that you have seen on cars for many years. Yeah, it's actually works with the electricity as well. Right now I'm turning it with my own hands, but basically that's the best way to show people how the kit looks, how the knuckles are, how the control arms are, everything. And there is something interesting about this thing that is pretty fresh for us as we just released the new product. It's not about the angle kit itself, but it's about this little baby here. So this is the EPS module, which is the electronic power steering module for BMW. Meaning that the steering rack, what you can see here, this is actually the E92 electric steering rack, or let's say E90, E80 electric steering rack. That's the rack that doesn't require any oil, any pumps, anything like that. It's purely works with electricity. The only downside till now has been that it's not possible to use it on a car where you have swapped the engine, because it requires quite a bit of information from BMW ECU. Like a speed information, weather information, all kind of stuff.
I would say even on BMWs it would be impossible to use it, because I don't know who would use stock ECUs on Pro Car.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it requires all kind of information. So basically we have developed over the last couple of years so-called a piggy pack that is manipulating with BMW data or information, so that it will let the rack work without having all these extra ECUs connected to it. So basically, yeah, once you turn on the ignition, the steering wheel start to work as a normal. It's connected obviously as a normal steering rack, but just it works with electrical motor in it. And yeah, basically it has, all you have to do is connect the big BMW original electric cables with the battery under the ground and a couple of other wires, and it has 3 different, let's say, steering stiffnesses, or however we call it. So you can have a super light steering, if you like it, medium one, and slightly stiffer one. So you can choose according to your preferences, whatever you prefer.
Is it somehow possible to set it up in the cabin? Because let's say I like very hard setup of the steering, but then if I'm in the paddock and I need to park the car and move the car around, it is not that nice to have like hard steering. So I would like to have the lightest setup as possible.
Yeah, it is. As you can see, there are a couple of tiny wires as well. So you can put a switch here. You can have like 3 different positions and you can choose between them. I'm not saying that it's something that you really have to do. Once you're set with one, it's good enough. But according to your description, yeah, in your case, it would work out well if you can change the stiffness. And the main reason why we actually built that kind of module for this electric steering rack is, I mean, electric steering rack has usually not been a good solution in drifting previously, but I can personally say that the E90 or BMW rack is actually very fast. It feels very natural when driving. And the main reason obviously is that you don't have to play around with all the pumps or electro-hydraulic pumps or anything like that, because when you're swapping the engines, dealing with different pumps, steering racks and stuff, then mixing and matching those things will almost always lead you to some sort of issues you have to deal with. And in this case, you can just forget all of this. You can just put it on.
I do not know about anyone in drifting scene at this moment who would not have some kind of issues with the steering pumps or steering racks. There is like a lot of issues with this, and it is not that easy to be solved. So if that is solution, it can be very interesting.
Yeah, there are quite a few drivers around, and we're already selling this product, so it's going to be widely used in upcoming month or at least year, I would say so. And yeah, another thing is that right now you can see it on E92. It can be used obviously on the first series BMW as well, but even with the Weiss Fab kit, we're selling a lot of F chassis Weiss Fab kits, and we are shortly launching also G series BMW kit, and all of those are designed around E92 rack, mostly hydraulic rack in mind, but it means that you can also throw in the electric rack into it. But this module, just in case I'm mentioning that this module is only working with E90 and E80 style steering rack. The F chassis rack, which is also electrical, it has different electronical system in it, so it's not gonna work with it. But you can usually throw in the E90 steering rack into those chassis as well. And yeah, we have like a GT86 GT86 kit designed for E90 steering rack. You can use it there, or a chassis or whatever you have, because Weiss Fab is using a lot E92 steering racks. And yeah, the electric one is a good solution as well. So why not?
Interesting. Okay, so what I can see here, you are not doing only stuff for drifting, as you're mainly known for stuff for drifting, but this is more time attack.
Yeah, we do something for grip racers, and we do something for rally guys as well. So here you can see the Mitsubishi Evolution, I believe it's Evolution 8, maybe, the rear end. So one corner, the left one is the original, and the right one is on Weiss Fab. So it's a full solution. We have both, obviously, like front and rear suspension for time attack guys. So these are the drop knuckles, adjustable arms, everything that you can expect to have as creepy and fast car as possible. So right now the car is pretty low, and you can see that the OEM arms are kind of upside down, meaning that actually the kinematics are not anymore best for driving. And if you look on this side, you can see that the camber, for example, is pretty okay, and the arms are looking more or less straight. And if you're going to the other side, you can see that the camber with the original arms,
it looks like broken.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, maybe some hot boys would like to drive it like this, but if you're going to racetrack, then for sure it doesn't help you much if the car is looking like this.
Yeah, and just for the people who would say, okay, I would never run my Evo that low, that is just too much, that when we're looking on it and it is that low, it doesn't mean that it needs to run that low. It means that it can get to that height on the compression. And this is something what is important to understand, that the height which you will set it up to is not the height you will be running in when you're cornering.
Yeah, if you're cornering like 160 kilometers an hour on a slick tires, then for sure the suspension will be compressed quite a bit, and that's something that you have to keep in mind. And then the suspension is actually working. When the car is standing in a paddock, it doesn't do any job.
Can you show us how it's actually working? I would like to see that.
Let's go for a slightly higher. So let's say this is a slightly lowered suspension.
Yeah, this is how I would set up my Evo, or how I
would say the same. I would say the same. So yeah, and even with that kind of height, you can see that actually, yeah, the camber is already changed quite a bit. I can quote the original driving height as well.
You can set up a little bit on the arm there, so you can set it up there, but then with the compression, you will definitely go into quite high camber.
Yeah.
When here, yeah, you're winning.
I mean, this kit is of course not only about the camber, it's about anti-squat, about all the other goodies around as well, because yeah, it's highly adjustable, and you can even adjust, let's say, to this position you're actually putting the shock.
Yeah.
So on the other side you can see that there are at least 2 different holes where the shock goes. It means that you can change the spring ratio without changing the spring, meaning that if you're moving it closer to the diff, it's getting softer. If you're moving it outside to the wheel, it's getting stiffer. So if you feel let's say that the car is too stiff for this track or the vice versa, then you have a chance to change it pretty quickly.
So if you will have like very technical flat track where you're looking for quite stiff suspension that the car moves around nicely, then you can run on one setup, and then you go on the other track where it is a little bit more bumpy and more difficult to drive around, so you will just move the coil over to a different position and it's all set up and you can go. So that was my biggest issue with Evo when I had it, because I like to drive it on Nordschleife, which is great track, but the setup for Nordschleife is completely different for anything else. And then when I took it to Most in Czech Republic, and it was like very hard to drive around because it was just too soft.
And I mean, making that kind of change, or even like testing out, should I use like softer spring or stiffer springs, that's something that you can very easily test out, and later you can make some adjustments with the spring.
Does this kit also going with some counterpart in the front? Because if I will change the spring rate in the back, I also should change the spring rate in the front.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing in front. But I mean, yeah, the front actually on Evo, it's McPherson suspension, meaning that it's just a lower control arm, knuckle, and the shock, which is mounted to the knuckle. But yeah, obviously we're offering like a full suspension setup for all these track cars. We have like a Evolution, as you can see, front and rear. We have Honda S2000, which is very popular in US. We have GT86 grip racing setup, and GTR R35. That's the thing as well, what we offer. But yeah, these are like in addition to all the drift stuff what we do anyways.
Also, there is one more thing you were telling me about, that you are doing things for drifting, things for time attack, and rally, and that's something what is there, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, this is just some half kind of mock-up what we have, but this is the E36, and if you are familiar with E36, then you almost can't recognize this rear end. So this is actually a rally setup.
So in E36, this is somehow kind of there, but this is not there, and this is not there.
Yeah, this is like an A-arm with 2 pickup points. This one goes to the diff. So this is actually meant for the long travel shocks for 280 millimeters, for example. This is something that is pretty widely used in Baltics and in northern countries in rally.
The amounts of travel of that suspension, that is wild.
Yeah, in rally you have to land soft. That's kind of important, especially on a gravel.
So you will need to have like completely new subframe, which will be able to accommodate the stock diff, I believe.
Yeah.
And then you're having also skid plate underneath the diff, which is a common thing in rally.
Yeah, that's for sure. So yeah, it's purely designed for rally, and it's like a full solution with all the subframe and everything. I mean, it's something that it's kind of not allowed to use in drifting, even if it works pretty well on a tarmac. We do have different very good solutions for drifting and grip racers if they like. But yeah, this is something that we developed quite a few years ago for especially for rally guys. And also there is a solution for the front end, long travel, control arms and other stuff for E36.
Okay, so what is hiding there? Let's go.
Let's go. That's the production. That's much more interesting. Let's get going then. So welcome to our production unit. Right here we have some engineering area. So this is actually our local test mill. It used to be a pro car in Estonia. So it's a BMW E90 V8 turbocharged.
It was also going through the jump?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, we have a couple of tracks which are pretty famous for the jumps and stuff. So this is actually, yeah, as I said, this is a test mill. We use it for many different product developments.
Pretty decent setup for the test mill.
Yeah, you can also see the Weiss Fab handbrake. That's something that is pretty new in there. It's all the ball bearings and everything. So yeah, a decent thing.
Oh, it feels nice.
It has like a pullback spring that brings it back to the position.
No play.
Yeah, and it's not moving left or right or anything like that.
That's nice.
But yeah, so basically, right now we have been developing some sway bars and stuff on this one. So it has a lot of sensors and stuff, and we're using Motec to gather all the information. So yeah, it's a very good thing. Obviously, we are testing a lot with different drivers around the world when it comes to products, you know, like a final testing. But if it comes to proof of concept, then we don't want to waste time of those drivers. at first we need to understand these.
And you also want to have some seat time.
Yeah, exactly. We need to have a seat time as well. I mean, at least something we can compare later. Because let's say, yeah, we can involve James or any other driver in US, Saudi, there are many of those, but they have their preferences, but at the end of the day, it has to be drivable also for, let's say, not maybe the absolutely top-notch drivers. So gathering that
some
kind
normal
of,
Joe,
yeah,
let's say.
a normal Joe, yeah.
One more thing which maybe people inside will not understand why we've been speaking about the Motec. Because if you will say Motec, everybody will think, oh, you're running ECU from Motec. But the truth is somewhere else.
Yeah, the truth is somewhere else. Even this car, it doesn't have Motec as an ECU. We use Motec to gather all the information from sensors. So basically, Motec is super capable when it comes to all kind of information, what you can later use for as a data for evaluating or whatever. So this is like a very useful tool, even outside of being one of the best ECUs out there. So yeah, we use it for many different purposes. So yeah, this is nothing too special, pretty primitive car, but it does the job, what we need. And yeah, this is like engineering area behind it. So right now, yeah, you can see, just sneak and peek here, some sway bar stuff on it, not yet connected.
That's what I wanted to say, that you're playing also with the sway bars now.
Yep, that's upcoming product, so it will be available very soon.
This is the high question in drifting. Sway bars or no sway bars?
I mean, to be honest, as we can talk about it later, drifting has developed over the years a lot. 10 years ago, we were saying no need for sway bars in drifting. Now, most people on a high level are using some sway bars.
When I was saying the sway bars are important, people were not believing.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was really not the case. It was all about just putting the wheel on the ground, and for that, the setup without sway bars is maybe better because the wheel can move around better. You're not affected what happens to the one wheel to another. But if you would like to be overall fast, overall behavior of the car, how it sets on the track itself, then the sway bars are quite needed.
Yeah, if you want to be snappy, if you want to be fast, then you need to deal with those things. Another thing is that the sway bar really helps to balance the grip between front and rear, meaning that nowadays it's pretty easy to make the car super grippy with all the tires and set up tweaks, what we know, and it's gonna understeer. Because another thing that people often don't understand is that you're not actually adding grip to the car. You're more or less moving grip around in the car, meaning that if you have more grip in the rear, for sure you will lose some grip in the front. If you have all the grip in the front, the rear end is not gripping up at all. So balancing these things out, sway bar is actually a thing that becomes handy.
And this is something what is going around from the beginning of drifting. What I remember from early 2000s, when it all started for me, was no grip in the back, as little of the grip in the back, and all the grip in the world in the front. Then it started to shift around a little bit. Then we got into like 50-50 ratio. Also the weight distribution was more set towards the weight. And then the super grippy tires, at least in Europe, came in and changed the world to a huge amount of grip in the rear. And now people are even shifting the weight a little bit towards the front to make the cars a little bit more drivable. Because if you're on completely 50-50 setup and you're having that amount of grip in the back, it's not easy to drive that thing.
No, not at all. So yeah, sway bar comes handy, and there are many other things, of course, you can play around. But yeah, in a high-level drifting nowadays, you have to balance the car pretty well to make it fast yet still drivable. Because otherwise, you can have all the grip and you can go straight, or you can have super loose car and you don't have any speed. So balancing it out, that's the key.
And this is something what came into my mind now. When we were speaking early 2000s, the drifting looked like something, then it started to change and change and change, and it is still changing motorsport at this moment. How Weiss Fab is looking on this, because when you started with your angle kits, the version 1s were all about the angle. It was a little bit killing the speed. That's why the purists of JDM scene were not huge fans of that. But over the years, now you can see even like D1 cars fitted with Weiss Fab, which is showing that it changed, it develops. Now the grip is somewhere else. So how you're dealing with the trends in drifting?
I mean, obviously we have to deal with it. To be honest, Weiss Fab became a trend at first when it came on the market. Because yeah, let's go back to, let's say, 2013, for example, when Michael Essa became a champion in FT on Weiss Fab. Then yeah, even in US, everybody started to talk about angle. It was a big thing. You needed to have a huge angle, gangsta style entries, all that kind of stuff. A couple of years later, Taiko Saito came over to US, and everybody started to talk about 1000 horsepower. So it was like a new trend in drifting that you need to have 1000 horsepower, otherwise you can't manage. So a few years later after that, James and Piotr came over to US, and everybody started to talk about speed. So, I mean, definitely there are some trends, and we have to keep up with those things. And I'm super lucky that I can be around the world on different drift events and sometimes judge those things to see how the trends are going. Because this is something that we really need to know. It's kind of my job to pay attention on those trends, to move on with those trends, to offer something for drivers, and make it happen so that the cars are as good as they can be, as up to date as they can be. So it comes to product development as well. So yeah, for certain things we have version 2, version 3, and so on. So yeah, most of the products have been changed over the years. So we have only few products left which are, let's say, design-wise, like 10 plus years old. But still everything.
And you're also adjusting the base kits, because some of the kits are in production quite for a long time. Is there also some adjustments inside of them with materials, with other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, we have updated those kits over the years quite a bit. One important thing to mention is that we are trying to keep the newer version, or let's say updated version, as similar to the old version as possible, so that the parts are interchangeable. Meaning that, let's say, if you have a version 1 control arm for BMW, you can put the new version control arm under the car. And
or you're having like adjustable.
Yeah, we have we call it like a double adjuster or something that makes it easier to adjust the caster, for example. But the general shape is the same, meaning that if you're crashing your old Weiss Fab, you can throw in the new control arm. You don't have to replace the full kit, at least in most cases. That's also a very important thing. But yeah, we have added a lot of features. We have improved some kinematics and other stuff like that. So yeah, we constantly develop and
compressible arm, my favorite.
Yeah, that's a thing for S chassis, and it's going to be available for some other chassis as well.
Oh, nice.
Just to save this. Basically, it's an arm that compresses under the, let's say if you're hitting the concrete, for example, the control arm goes shorter. It's a tow arm on S chassis, meaning that you don't damage your subframe. Replacing the arm in 5 minutes, it's pretty simple. But yeah, replacing the subframe or fixing the subframe in 5 minutes, you can't do it.
I was quite impressed when I saw the amount of energy which was able to absorb by that compressible arm and the half shaft. It was just one arm to change, and the knuckle was fine. All the other arms were, I believe, fine. Maybe one more arm was bent a little bit. Yeah. But it is something what you can just change one arm and you can get back on track, which normally those things needs to be designed that you are able to get back on track in 10 minutes, because if it is not your mistake, you need to be in 10 minutes back. If it is your mistake, in some cases you are still having like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So if that is possible to change those things in 5 or 10 minutes, that it can be life changer for the owner of the race car. So I like that type of engineering.
Yeah, I mean, there are many types of engineering you have to put in. First of all, obviously, like good kinematics to make sure that it works in a proper way. It's precise, it's snappy, it's yet well drivable and everything. Then it comes to how strong are the parts or how weak they are, so that it doesn't damage the overall car chassis or the subframe too much. Choosing the correct materials, obviously. So there is a lot of engineering behind it. So it's not only about cutting some parts from the steel and welding those things together. It's a little bit more to be honest.
I believe that we are living in really good time of drifting as drifters, because the companies which are making parts for us now needs to fight. And they need to bring some more R&D into their parts, that they are having like edge over the others. And we're all benefiting from this. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, competition is something that you kind of need for product development, yes, or to develop yourself as a person.
Good. Let's check the other parts. This is the end of part 1 of my Weiss Fab visit, and next time we will check some secrets of this company. So stay tuned and we are coming back soon.